Today, we're going headfirst into one of the most twisted misconceptions of our time, and that is that masculinity is oppressive towards women. Masculinity is oppressive towards women.
When you look at what the core of masculinity is, we want to look after our queens, right? The women in our life. We want to protect them. So how can that possibly be oppressive?
Where does this concept come from that women are in any way, shape or form feeling oppressed? When a woman operates in her feminine, we embrace it as men and we encourage it because we like it. Not only that, the more you see a woman within herself stay within that or operate and function within that feminine, that's when they do feel empowered, right? So if we're going to debunk anything when it comes to oppression, it's men getting oppressed in both areas. Men can't be feminine because they're weak and pussies, and they can't be masculine because they're misogynistic and whatever. Is there anything women are doing that you think they shouldn't be doing? Gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Collective podcast and the very next episode of our new series, The War on Masculinity. Wayne Taylor here, and joining me, as always, just a bunch of random dudes I saw walking around outside, so I invited them in to sit down on the panel. So look, don't expect much from them today, don't get your hopes up. Jamie, Mikie, Chrisso.
You promised us biscuits.
These are just getting worse and worse, aren't they? These intros. Look, so far in the series, we've unpacked the difference between thermostats and thermometers, meaning, the difference between leaders and followers. We've gone through what they really defines a man's worth. We've tackled the overused phrase of toxic masculinity, and more recently debunked the theory that to be masculine means to suppress emotion. Today, we're going headfirst into one of the most twisted misconceptions of our time, and that is that masculinity is oppressive towards women. The truth is, the more masculine a man becomes, the more empowered the women around him become. Oppression isn't the result of masculinity. It's the result of brokenness, insecurity, and misuse of power. In fact, when a man leans into true, authentic masculinity, the women around him don't shrink, they thrive. Masculinity isn't the enemy. It's the foundation of safety and strength. And the more masculine a man becomes, the more empowered the women in his life become. So today, we're going to flip the script. We're defending what it means to be a man and exploring why it's every woman's best interest for men to fully embrace their masculine design in order to be empowered. But more importantly, why we as men need to operate in our full masculine for our women to feel safe, supported, and in this case, empowered. Lads, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Risky.
Let's upset some people.
They've all been risky though. We're not backing away from risk. This is good. We're taking it pretty much head on. So, well, look, I'm going to, as always, start with a yes or no question. I'll get your yes or no and then come back to you as to your reasons why. But I'll start with this question. True or false? Masculinity is oppressive, I should say, towards women. James, start with you. Yes or no, mate?
Well, true masculinity? Yeah.
True masculinity.
Yeah. False.
Okay. Mikie, masculinity is oppressive towards women.
I'll go false. I'll copy Jamie. It's easy.
Just for argument's
What
sake.
he said. Yeah.
Chrisso.
Oh, I think I should say false, otherwise I might get marched out the door.
Look, definitely false as well. I don't see masculinity as oppressive towards them. I can understand the world in some minority groups are pushing towards that agenda, but it's definitely not the case. Let's go around here our reasons why. Jamie, why do you think it's not the case?
Well, I think that that's why I sort of clarified true masculinity, because sometimes people, I guess, mix up insecurity for masculinity. So they think, so a guy who's being insecure and like not understanding his values or worrying about what he's going to lose and all that sort of stuff. Well, some people see that guy as like being overbearing, overprotective, all that sort of stuff, as he's trying to be masculine, but it's not masculine. It's he's being insecure in who he is and his relationship and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So, but if it's true masculinity, which we keep coming back to those 3 points of, being the protector, being the provider, and being the leader of your family sort of thing, well, that's actually trying to keep women safe. And the safer they are, the more they have the opportunity to step into their feminine and actually, being the loving, nurturing, caring sort of women that they should be.
100% agree. Mikie?
Yeah,
That's what he said.
Yeah, what he said. When you look at what the core of masculinity is we want to look after our queens, right? The women in our life. We want to protect them. So how can that possibly be oppressive? Like if you're going about everything you want to do is geared at giving a better life to the women in your life, how is that possibly oppressive? Like, you know, there can be things within a bloke that can potentially be oppressive to a woman, but that's not masculinity. That's character flaws.
Yeah, totally agree. Like with what was Jan was just saying about insecurities and things like that. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's
Chrisso, anything to add, bud?
I guess it just comes down to like how you go about being in your masculine, whether you're toxic or whether you're you're true masculine. If you're going to be in the toxic masculine sort of department, then that's definitely going to oppress the women, isn't it? Like you know, being violent and being overpowering. That's where the oppression comes from, and I think that's where this whole debate has started.
Yeah. It'd be interesting from your point of view because the two women closest to you in your life, one being your business partner, one being your wife, are two both powerhouse women, both strong-headed, driven. So it's interesting to hear because you would think that it's those type of women that are not say climbing corporate ladders and things like that, but there's women that are actually making a difference, women that are actually doing things in business and things like higher up in the ranks. You would think that those are the women that are getting empowered or feeling empowered because they're doing big and great things. So hearing that from you is interesting because the women in your life are obviously feeling empowered because they're doing big things.
Yeah. And it's important too that they don't bring that home either. You know, my wife's quite up there in the corporate world, and when she comes home from work, she steps down into her feminine role, and she's soft and nurturing and real, kind, and that's how I need her to be when we're inside home. But when she goes to work, I need her to be fearless and a real go-getter. That's how it needs to happen in the family environment.
Yeah, totally agree. And I know I've said this to you guys before too, like the position that my wife holds in our business, not that it's ever been a struggle or an issue, but it's a challenge within us because, again, like I've said before, we run the business from home, within the home, and her position is very empowered because she runs a lot of things. And then, to find that switch off where she goes from being masculine to feminine again can be challenging. Yeah. And sometimes I'm not to put her into line, but sometimes you try to say, hey, like, can you just come back a bit? It's past 4:30 or it's past 5 o'clock. Can you just not be so empowered? Just be, not that that's the right word, but you know what I mean? Very risky because she listens to this. Hey, babe, love you. But, okay, so look, when we think this whole misconception that masculinity is oppressive, again, we mentioned this a couple of times, a couple of episodes ago about we were asking where do these come from? And the more and more we go down this path, it comes from smaller minority groups of people that seem to be secluded, and these tiny little things that start to get voices, and then these voices get louder, and then for some reason, governments and these things seem to listen to them. But they're not coming from, I know we said this before, they're not coming from women that, like, Chris, go back to you, both your business partner and your wife, I would not at all think that either of them would feel disempowered. They would be feeling very, very empowered. So the statement that masculinity is oppressive, I don't think either of those two would be feeling oppression in their lives, in their business lives, in that whatsoever. I mean, your business partner, Beck, she just got the award for the HIA award in the building industry.
Yeah, women in construction.
Yeah, women in construction, because obviously she's not being oppressed. Otherwise, the industry would be oppressing her down, but she's obviously not. So asking the very simple question then, where does this concept come from that women are in any way, shape or form feeling oppressed? Where's it come from? And in what industries?
It's a good headline and it's a good excuse, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone deserves a voice, and the fact is that
just not the voice.
Yeah. and there is bad things that happen out there, yeah. But I think that's what kind of, that's why we call the group Average Joes, because there isn't a voice for guys who are actually just trying to do their best. But even them are getting oppressed for, having these masculine traits and getting told that they shouldn't be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that, when it's in our nature to actually be masculine. It's normal for us to actually do that. So everyone deserves a voice. And I think that, what we're looking to do on the podcast here is actually go, well, this is probably a good way to look at things, and it's okay for you to actually be who you are, sort of thing. So yes, bad stuff happens. And I think, Mikie, you're exactly on the money. The reason why I guess the minorities get a larger voice is because it sells really well. You know what I mean? People watch it, they go, oh, that's horrible. More advertisers, all that sort of stuff. But, it is the average Joe who actually is trying to do the right thing, trying to be the best father they can, trying to be the best husband they can, trying to be the best workmate that they can, all these things, trying to create something, who I feel aren't the people that actually have a voice.
You're spot on, mate. You're absolutely spot on. And leading into this, to putting this together for today's episode, I was thinking about oppression and obviously sticking with the whole what is masculine, what is feminine, male, female, what are our traits, and then where does oppression lie? Breaking down this misconception that anything, when a man becomes masculine, it's oppressive towards women. I'm looking at going, right, okay, when a woman operates in her feminine, we embrace it as men and we encourage it because we like it. Not only that, the more you see a woman within herself stay within that or operate and function within that feminine, that's when they do feel empowered, right? So you go, okay, so the oppression in that isn't there, right? So women operating in their feminine, we love it, they love it. When women start to operate in their masculine, right, the world gets behind it and goes, oh, it's women's empowerment and we support them and lift them up and things like that. So it seems as if it's the actual opposite in all of this. When a woman operates in their feminine, we push it, we encourage it. When a woman operates in her masculine, the world pushes it and encourages it. Now, you flip the script there for a minute. When a man operates in his feminine, the world crushes it. You're weak, you're pussy, get up, stop crying, gay. It's true, right?
Yep.
And then when a man operates in his masculine, it's misogynistic, it's overpowering, it's oppressive. So it's like women are allowed to and encouraged to operate in both, and men are discouraged and pushed down when they operate in either of them. So if we're going to debunk anything when it comes to oppression, it's men getting oppressed in both areas. Men can't be feminine because they're weak and pussies, and they can't be masculine because they're misogynistic and whatever.
What man wants to be in their feminine? Really?
Well, you're right. I mean, look, that's interesting in itself. And look, what does it mean for a man to be feminine? Because I think I mentioned to you guys before, this lady coming on in a couple of weeks, Kylie, who functions in this whole thing and runs these courses on where and when the timing is right for both men and women to operate in either. So I think when you look at what feminine and masculine is, I think there are times when men need to be in their feminine, which is the love, the caring, the compassion, the things like that, because we need to have that with our families, with our kids and things like that. It's just it's not our traits to be, you go back to, not call it the Stone Age, but you go back to how traditional always was. The guy goes out to work, the woman stays home. Why? Because the woman functions better in that as an entirety, and we function better out there as the provider entirely. But I think there's times where we do switch. But just looking at where this whole oppression lies, if oppression exists in anything, it's on men on both areas. And if empowerment exists on anything, it exists on women on both areas. The real problem here is that it's men being oppressed.
Well, this is a safe space, right?
No one listens to this one.
Yeah. Get ready to do some editing. You watch these videos on Facebook, right? And you'll look at an Eastern country where there's a very orthodox Muslim husband and wife, and the wife's literally just got her eyes poking out, and she's not allowed to go out you're not allowed to drive. If you want to get a divorce, a man can just leave his wife, but the woman has to go to a court to get approval to leave her husband. You sit there and go, that's oppressive, right? But when you're at home and your wife is being maybe a little bit masculine, maybe having a tantrum or whatever, you go, how good would that be? how easy would, easy would life be just for a day if we went there?
You were right. We need to edit this a bit, I think.
But that's oppression, right? That's where I'm going with
yeah.
it. Is you go, what we've got now is it's human nature. We all want more. We always want better, more. Whatever it is. That's all it is. It's I feel like I want more. I don't feel like I'm getting heard enough or this. You're oppressive.
All right, let's stay a little bit risky then. Let's go down this path a bit more. Is there anything women are doing that you think they shouldn't be doing? What are you laughing at? You've got ideas already. No, but look, go back to what you're saying.
I've got a list.
There's two that pop into my mind to start off with, and it's being disrespectful without thinking about the consequences of what it's doing to. Because, as we talked, men see love as respect. So if you feel respected, you're going to feel loved. Yeah? So I think that some women deliberately become disrespectful because, they see themselves either better or I think we've forgotten that it's a team effort and we should start with the end in mind, which is, to have a happy, healthy relationship or marriage and family. Do you know what I mean? And we forget that our kids are going to do what we show them. You know what I mean? So we let the day-to-day bullshit come in. And I think that a lot of the way that women get a step up is they know that if they disrespect their man, then that will give them like the heads up. They'll win for that day. But, what's the old saying is that they win the battle, but they don't win the war, because all that does is push us apart. And naturally, we're supposed to be in our masculine. They're supposed to be in their feminine there. The second one has just popped straight out of my mind because I was too busy thinking about that one. So I'll go back to you.
Well, I'll ask some practical questions, right? And just I want your honest answer. I'm just thinking this off the top of my head. Do you think women should run countries? It's an honest question.
Well, okay. Look, Margaret Thatcher did a phenomenal job back when she was in power years ago. So I don't think they can't do it. It just needs the right kind of person. Because when you look at who we've got now, like we've got Albanese in Australia.
We do have a woman running the country.
Yeah, we do. Like that's an incredibly feminine dude, right?
Very
it
feminine.
Could only get more feminine with a bit of cycle gear. Like that's about it, Tell me I'm wrong.
I reckon he cycles.
But I think women can do anything, and I think in this day and age it'd be foolish to say that they can't, and they should. And but the only thing is they just need to make sure they don't, like I said before, they don't bring it home. Go out there and be a badass boss bitch. Go and run countries. Go and be CEOs of companies and stuff like that. That's great. And get that empowerment for being, feeling like they're the boss and they're in control. When you walk in your home, come home and step back into that role where you're feminine. Let the man be in charge. Let the man be masculine in his own home, and keep your marriage together. Because you see so many marriages split apart because that's going on. That the women's trying to be the top dog. The women's trying to sort of take control of the family, and it doesn't work. It's not how it was. That's not how it was meant to be. It's not how a marriage is supposed to operate.
Look, we can all agree that. We all do agree on that, 100%. I think that statement in general nowadays is the very thing that creates this whole thought pattern around oppression, though, is that I put a comment on one of my mates' Facebook post the other day or something like that, is praising his wife. And I said, mate, it's the old saying, behind every good man is an amazing wife. And he said, no, beside every good man. I'm like, mate, I'm not going to get into an argument over it. It's a statement. I'm just, whatever.
You just made it a bitch.
I think you did. I think, mate, come on. Why are you saying that for? I'm not trying to do this whole bloody back and forth thing. But then in my head, I'm going, but no, I actually still do believe that original quote. I think it's not that my wife is behind me. My wife does, I I think leadership comes from the front, though. Like, you have to lead from the front. That's what leadership is. You can't just stand and dictate. But I'm thinking that whole thought concept now on relationships walking side by side. Okay, let's break that down then. When you look at a relationship and that very thing, is that where this whole oppression thing's coming from? Are women now stepping up in marriages and going, oh, no, we run this together? Or is it really still traditional of, no, the man runs it?
Maybe that's what's happening, because obviously we've given a lot more freedom for women to go out in the workforce and become these high-paid professional people now in this new day and age. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they're getting empowered at work, and then they're coming home, and this is what's going on.
You just said something really interesting then, because you said, we're now. How did you say we're allowing women to go out now?
Well, it's the women have the freedom to
right? Okay,
go and do that now.
Remember when we had Nathan Birch on, and he was talking about how it was the government that introduced. They wanted twice the amount of taxpayers, so they offered incentives to send your kids to childcare because you've seen that incentive. Now push the wife out to work. So it's maybe it's not that we gave them freedom. Maybe it's that we've created a system that has given that misconception that is freedom. That now women are going out there and working, when I think we could all, I don't know, like I would be quite happy if I was the worker and Lisa was at home and just looking after the kids. I mean, at some stage up until, because we had 4 kids under 5, for a long time there, that was the case. Lisa works now because she loves the work environment, and I know both the women in your life, Chris, love the work environment. So, well, there's no way I would hold her back, but ideally, if she was just the at-home mum cooking and baking cakes, like you see the old traditional 1940s, 50s woman, and I was coming home, like, I got nothing wrong with that, but it's the system that's changed. And so I wonder if it's not freedom that we've given women. I wonder if that in itself is the oppression, that we've now gone, and I say we, I'm not saying we as the men, I'm saying we as a society, as a system, or government, has put that idea in as go and earn more money, and now these women out there working, which we can all say we're not against that. But I wonder if that in itself has then brought it to be more of a level side-by-side, even playing field. I wonder if that's where it started.
Well, who said that walking beside someone means that you're just as important as that one, or being behind someone means that you're less important? Why is that the perception? So you think about in workplaces, the people on the front, are the workers. So if you look at hospitality, you've got front of house and back of house, and you've got management. Now, management aren't out front dealing with all the stuff, but are they considered less important, or are they considered the most important? So why is it that they have to be beside you? Like, my mindset is like, when you said that, I'm like, well, I'm out in front because I want to deal with the bullshit to help protect my family.
Right. Yep. You're spot on.
And as you're saying, I'm happy to go out and work and deal with the challenges, the difficulties, the bullshit, say someone coming at you and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy to take care of that. So when I come home, I've got a happy family. So why is that perception where, I've got my family behind me? Why is that? Oh, no, because they're not as good as me. Where if someone who's in their masculine, I'm out in front because I want to divert some of the bullshit of life, because let's be honest, life has plenty of bullshit in it, away from the people I love. And that's where you feel in your most masculine, when you're dealing with things to protect the people that you love.
Think on a practical way, right? You walk down a street, you're on a busy road and you're walking down a sidewalk on a street, it's late at night. You walk side by side with your missus, right? She's on right next to you. So practically speaking, if you look at this as an analogy, you're walking side by side in life. But the gentleman thing to do is that she's more closest to the wall or to the edge of the other side.
I was just thinking
correct.
that.
Yeah, but you're towards the road.
Yep.
Right? Now you're towards the road because that's where the danger, not that things are dangerous, but that's where the danger would come from. So practically speaking, as an analogy, you're walking side by side through life, but you as a man are still positioned in harm's way, because if harm was going to come, you're the one that's like, no, I got this. This is where this
I
is
will
my role.
protect you from that lunatic in a Tesla.
I didn't hear him coming though. He's like,
BYD.
Ninja.
But
it's a BYD, watch out.
But
I can't
same
hear it.
example, like if you're walking, yeah, and there's some unsavory people in front of you, you would take your wife's hand and put her behind you. Correct? Yeah. So could you imagine if you grabbed her and pushed her through and said, "Here, you deal with it." Like that's
Protect me, woman.
well, there's some guys out there like that.
Yeah, lead.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's so. Why is it with your mate's comment? Oh, beside, like, yes, when it's safe, they're beside you. That's at home. You're you're yin and yang. You're masculine and feminine. Like it's working with each other, but we do go out and we want to be at the front. We want to lead our families because, like, it just leads into the protection, the provide. Like,
Yeah. Well, looking at that word lead then, right? Let's go back to what we're saying in the women in Chris's life that are all in positions of leadership, countries that are led by women or have been led by women. Using that word led and combining it with women, right? We say the word led or lead is a masculine trait. We align it with masculinity, right? So when women are in positions of any form of leadership, is that them operating in their masculine?
I guess so.
It would have to be, wouldn't it?
It's all horses for courses, though, isn't it? Like you look at, we talk about all men being masculine. I know guys that the role is reversed. She's the masculine one and he's the feminine one. Does it just need to be that we need a masculine and a feminine in every relationship? We need those two polarities. Doesn't matter who's wearing it. That's just how it falls.
Yep.
That's just how we've been
Well,
created.
the polarities attract. That's what's happening. And I think that sometimes is the breakdown in a lot of relationships because there's a lot of kids, like men who have grown up with single mums by the mum. The mum's installed a lot of the femininity into them, yeah. And then when they go get into a relationship, they find a woman who's in a masculine. The attraction is there. But as that guy develops and as the guy works out who he really is and, develops and has his values and then has other things set and gains confidence in himself, naturally he's becoming more of that masculine man. So he's the person that's changed and the woman doesn't feel safe enough to flip to a femininity. So the polarities, instead of actually attracting now, actually push away from each other. So I think that's one of the big, and that's why I think it's so important for, if you do have a son and he doesn't have a male influence in his life, actually get out there and see those people who are actually going to be like that. Because, that's not anyone's fault when that happens, where, the polarities change. It's just people change and people grow, and we have to understand that sometimes, either you grow with the relationship, and people change to keep it together, or sometimes it's not like the right relationship to be there.
That's an interesting thought, mate. You said something really good there that I want to touch on. Going back to that situation of walking down the street, right? If Elisa's beside me and danger's coming, it's an instant flick of the switch. I'm on. I'm in harm's. I'm stepping in harm's way, and I can take this, right? So positionally, she steps back into her, not back into it, but stays in her feminine. I step up in my masculine, and all of a sudden she feels safe, and she feels safe because she's behind me. No, you got this, babe. I'm behind you. I feel safe. So she steps in her feminine when she feels safe, and she's safe when I'm in my masculine. So then within the home, so when it's not dangers of physical attack, but when it's within the home and there's arguments in the home, there's disagreements and things like that, is it because the woman's not feeling safe, which is why she's not stepping into a masculine? So maybe the stuff at home when you see arguments and all these things happen, maybe it's the women in our lives aren't feeling safe. When it's practical and they feel safe, they hide behind us. No, you got it, baby. You go take the fight. You go punch the guy out. But when it's the argument and it's still very, very confronting and it's like they're operating in a masculine trait of, aggression and strength and that kind of thing, is it because if they're not feeling safe, is it us that haven't made them feel safe within that? We make them feel safe on the street corner, but are we not making them feel safe within the home? Which is why they're not stepping back into it.
I think potentially yes. You know what I mean? And I think that, if I look at it myself, I know right now there's areas in my life that I need to improve to make Anna feel safer. And you consistently work to make that happen. I think one of the biggest mistakes that women make, though, is that when you do see the guy making those changes, you need to support them, not actually constantly remind them that we're not there yet. So, the old saying that, the man is the head of the house, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head where they want to. One of the other things is like in fighting, one of the most important things that you need to have needs to be strong, is your neck. Because when you actually get knocked out, it's the actual impact of your brain hitting the skull that knocks you out. And the stronger your neck is, the less the whiplash actually happens. So if you look at that as an analogy, where the stronger support your wife gives you, the more you can take as a man.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally on board.
And that's why sometimes when you have that woman behind you who has your back, who pushes you, who, builds you up when you need it and all that sort of stuff, those men can achieve so much. So, and that's why I think that, like when I spoke about before, where we have that lack of respect, because when a guy is trying, and I think that that's probably one of the biggest problems why we have so many men struggling, they're actually putting in the effort. They're trying to be better dads. They're trying to do all this sort of stuff. And no one's perfect. But then when they're trying to do the right thing, they don't feel supported at all. They're told about everything they're doing wrong rather than all the things that they're trying to improve on. So I think that that's one of the big issues. I think the other big issue too is that we have a lot of single women out there who are trying to paint the picture of their life is so amazing when they're single and all the rest of it. And when their partner is struggling, like when they've got a friend who's married or whatever and isn't in a good situation, they've got friends that are sitting there going, oh, you don't need that shit. You're a strong, independent woman, rah, 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 rah. Rather than having friends that are actually saying, you know what, you've got a good man. He's doing the best he can. If we support him, have we thought about what we're doing to actually, but it's vice versa as well too with guys. I come and seek support from you and you're like, let's see what we can do to make sure we can, make the relationships stuff. And you're like, Jamie, think about what you're doing and, you need to take responsibility for this and et cetera, et cetera. Like you can't control what she's going to do, but, you could do this. And maybe if you did this would make her feel this way, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But sometimes you need someone to go, mate, don't be stupid. Don't leave what you have. And I can't remember who said it. It might have been Les Brown, but he was like, we've got people who have 80% of everything they want, yeah, and all they're doing is focusing on the 20% that they don't have. And then they go leave the 80% to go find someone who has that 20% that they missed out on, and it's only they only realise about what they had until it's too late.
Yep.
I
So
like what we said about that whole head and neck thing. I think that is absolutely spot on because you look at what the head has to offer and what the neck has to offer. The head being the vision, the head being hearing, the clarity, the head being the brain, the thoughts, the things like that. But that in itself is nothing if there's no neck. If like practically speaking, if the head has no neck, the head's just flap around. But if the head is supported well, that head can operate in its absolute supreme vision, supreme, just like its absolute fullness. But it all comes down to its support, proving how important it is for women in our lives that we make them feel who they are and empowered and strong and things like that because they are our support. And the more that we feel supported, what can stop an unsupported man? If you go into, and just think again, just staying very practical, if you can get this vision in your head, you got a bloke there with a head and a very, very strong supportive neck going up against a guy with just a head and not much of his neck on him, who's going to win? But practically speaking, right? And so you take that analogy and put it into real life. You take a man out there that's supported by his missus, encouraged, spoken well of, respected. You've got a man that you don't want to mess with because you've got a man that's operating his absolute full potential.
Discover multi-award winning real estate with podcast sponsor One Life Property Group, based on the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, specialising in everything from high-end duplexes to multi-residential developments, ensuring the highest quality workmanship. Visit onelifepropertygroup.com.au today to achieve excellence in your next property development.
So does that mean instead of saying, like, grow some balls, it's like grow some neck? Yeah.
Fix your missus, mate.
Get a neck about you, mate.
Get
Oh,
some-
yeah, we're
get
having
some neck,
arguments.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to the oppression, though, that's why someone in their true masculine doesn't want to oppress it. They don't see it as oppression. We're trying to build them. We're trying to make them stronger. We're trying to make them feel safe, you know? So, and we're prepared to take the bullshit to actually do that. And, you know, they say, and realistically, some people see you trying to make your partner feel safe. It's actually you just trying to not put them in a situation where they're going to be hurt or make the wrong decision, or, you know what I mean, or get taken advantage of, or et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So,
if there needs to be a masculine and feminine in every relationship, right? So if the man is the masculine one and the woman is trying to be masculine, that's going to be oppressive, right? Because he's going to win. Because he's born with it more than her. So maybe that's where this whole oppression thing comes from, is when the woman tries to be like the man, but she can't because he's already doing it.
Which raises that thing we just said before about, well, if a woman is stepping into that, is it because she's not feeling safe? Because when women don't feel safe is when they step up into
Doesn't feel safe or doesn't feel content?
That's a good thought. I would say safe. I would say it's when a woman doesn't feel safe. Safe as in like we were talking like physical, practical speaking. If it was a physical fisticuffs on the side of a road, obviously a woman's not going to feel safe if she's there alone and it's five guys, right? But within the home, if she's not feeling safe, is it because of we haven't given her room to think for herself, or haven't given her room to express? I don't know. So if they're not in their feminine.
well, let's look at safety. The things that come off the top of my head is obviously physical, as you said, yeah, but also financial safety as well too. So if they're worried about the finances, emotional safety, so they're worried about whether they can express themselves, or, you know, and I guess relationship safety as well too. So if they're worried that they're going to do something and then the relationship is over, then, you know, so that's sort of, there's probably more than that, but that's what I can think of off the top of my head. Do you guys have any more? Or
I think the suppression definitely comes from a toxic relationship where a man is being toxic masculine. The women are being suppressed
you weren't here last week,
from the
but
fear and, hey?
we decided what toxic masculinity was last week, and that was a group of men walking into a coffee shop wearing spandex and cycle. So, just to fill you in.
Okay. But that's generally where, like, this whole, so everything, where it all started, right? From women that are in a violent relationship or something like that, and they're getting suppressed from all that kind of fucking riffraff that's going inside in the house,
So-
feeling like they're trapped and they can't escape.
Well, I guess that's what we see play out. I mean, you look at domestic violence for a second here, and I hate when legitimate domestic violence situations exist. It really gets me going, because I don't think there's nothing more weak than a man overpowering a woman for that. It does piss me off, right? Recently, I've seen a lot, and I won't go too much into it again because I have before, but recently I've seen a lot of accusations of domestic violence that haven't existed, and that's what pisses me off on the other extreme, because I go, well, it's not the case. But you look at within a family situation, or, you know, at home, when domestic violence kicks in, you've got a woman now experiencing not feeling safe physically within her own home, right? Which then causes that dynamics to be domestic violence, and we think physical. So when a woman's not feeling safe physically, and then all those things that you've brought up, Jamie, but then she can also not feel safe financially, she can also not feel safe emotionally, we're actually looking at everything in one big like one big circle of just like a collective of so many things, but we seem to always focus on her not feeling safe physically. We want our women to feel safe in all of those areas, but we seem to always think of the physicalities of it, of the physical side of it. So I guess if women are feeling oppressed, it's because they're not feeling safe. So then how, as men, do we make our women feel safe?
Good question.
Just be a real man.
Well, step one, step into your masculinity. And the first step of actually masculinity is leading. And the first step of leading is lead yourself first. So do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's it. Like, just actually lead yourself and look at those different areas, because a lot of the time, you know, especially with the emotional side of things, it's triggers that have happened to us that make you react in a certain way. Yeah. And you can't expect people to stop not triggering you. You need to learn. And that's what we were talking about. I think it was last week's episode where, you know, emotions, suppressing them is not the answer. It's actually learning how to deal with them and actually working through them and reacting in the right way. So actually having kids, like, you know, who are upset, who are angry, who are all the rest of it, and we're actually saying, no, you can't, don't stop being angry and all the rest of it. How do you deal? Anger is an emotion. Yeah. And if you don't learn how to deal with that anger correctly, then it just bottles up and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need to take ownership of what we're doing, because we're the only things that we can, like, you know, you are the only person that you can control, you know, and take, you know, and then also make sure you're working hard, you know, do the right things, save, you know, don't spend more than you make. So wish I learnt that lesson earlier. Yeah. And yeah, and love your family. Like, just do the best you can with what you've got.
Looking at masculinity being oppressive, because I agree with what you're saying. I think, and we've mentioned this many, many times before, and I don't think I'll ever get away from it, because it's the truth, and it's exactly what you said. I think it all comes back down to men operating in their masculine, and the best place to start is within yourself. Focus on yourself, get yourself good, get yourself right, and then the overflow is the effect, right? Because you look at, I mean, I think it was, I think you and I, Mike, were here maybe a month or so ago, or might have been you, Jamie, and Zoe was here, and she was saying how, because she's single at the moment, and, you know, just looking on the dating scene and things, but saying the statement of there's just no like real manly men out there anymore, and you go, but if women, if masculinity itself is the thing that is making women feel oppressed, then why is it that women are seeking manly men? It kind of contradicts the whole thing. Are they seeking the very thing that they feel oppresses them? So it's obviously there's something wrong
Again,
here.
it's the headline though, isn't it? Most women aren't. I think, again, we're hearing from the loud few about what they want, what they're disgruntled about. The reality is most women want exactly that. They want a dude who's a dude, and he's going to come home, he's going to do the right thing, provide for them, open the door at the restaurant. And I look at my youngest sister in America. She got married end of last year. She's, again, in the corporate world, an independent woman, lived by herself, done her thing, travels all the time. I watch her with her new husband, and she is the most feminine thing, but she is so happy. I just look at that and go, like, you get to literally watch it play out, sitting there in the lounge. It's insane. When a man is a man, a real man, that's exactly what they want. They just naturally fall into that, and it's happy. So yeah. I think we listen to these few that have been sold some weird, you know, left-wing version of what the world can be. This, you know, Orwellian kind of whatever you want to call it. It's all a lie.
Yeah, it's definitely when you get the dynamic right with the masculinity and the femininity, it just works, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, you go back to the start of any relationship. Forget about where you are now. If you're at home and your wife's not happy or she wants to take more control or whatever, you go back to the beginning, and it would have been exactly that. It would have been masculine and feminine. She would have put all her feminine charm on to attract you, and you would have done all the masculine to attract her.
And you look at the divorce rate in itself proves that very thing. The divorce rate now, people are avoiding marriage like crazy now, but even those that get married, it's 50-50. But you go back to the 40s and the 50s, the 30s, the 20s, whatever it is, and you were watching those relationships play out. The divorce rate was like, I think it's like 89% people got divorced. It was so rare.
Yep. Well, there's some of these old movies that are like based back in the 50s in America with that kind of nuclear family, Happy Days, those kind of shows where you see the man come home from work and his wife's there with the pipe and slippers and, welcome home, husband.
Freshly baked pie.
How good would that be?
I can smell the pie now. I just smell it.
It would be, but that's, and I think that women see that, go, that's oppressive. Why? She's so happy, that you only see the side of her seemingly serving her husband at the door. She's not serving him. She's glad to see him. This is the guy that pays all the bills, gives her the house, allows her to do what she wants all day. She's grateful.
Well, when
She's not oppressed. That's oppressed.
Yeah, you're right. You're right though. That's actually the truth. It's not oppression. It's happiness.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Mate, look, Pip works. She works hard. She's a nurse. She does her thing. So I said to her, hey, would you like to not work and the money still be there? She wouldn't work. She'd want to stay home. She'd want to go off and enjoy herself. Who wouldn't?
I think there are some women that still enjoy the workforce.
Yeah.
I'd probably say some of the women that are very... I know Lisa doesn't enjoy the workforce.
Yeah,
she doesn't like what she does.
Some people thrive in it. Some people don't. And I think if we were all honest, if there was a endless amount of cash, we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. We'd still busy ourselves, but we wouldn't do it doing what we're doing. We can enjoy our job, but we wouldn't wake up and go, oh, I'm really excited to go out there and build a house today, get sunburned and fucking sweat. And
So
you enjoy the end result, don't you?
Yeah.
And you have fun with the lads, but you don't go, oh, I fucking can't wait to get sunburnt again and flogged. I'm really
Those part of it you don't like, but
yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting home and everything hurts. Oh, it's going to be so good.
Thinking it practically at like a work situation, right? If I was at work and I was watching one of the young guys or another tradesman or something doing a job, and I'm watching them struggle or watching them do it in a way that I wouldn't do it and it's taken twice as long, or I can see them trying to analyse something that in my head I go, mate, I already know how to do this, just jump out the way, right? For me to have that thought pattern of like, mate, just jump out the way real quick. Oh, why is that? Oh, because I know how to do, I've done this 100 times, or I can do it faster, or I can do it quick. We do that practically, right? Because we're watching the situation play out, and in our heads we're going, mate, just jump out the way real quick. Because in our heads we can either do it faster, we can do it more efficient, we can do it better. For one of those reasons, doesn't matter. Do you think the reason women step up into these roles is because they're looking at us men going, look, you're just not doing a good enough job. You're not.
You've got no clue, mate. Get out of the way.
Honestly, though, like, do you think this is why women I'm talking like at home life, at business life, it doesn't matter. Do you think it's because women are looking at men and going, oh, look, can you just get out of the way? Are we not doing a good enough job in the things that we're doing?
There's some things that women can do better.
Yeah, agree.
Women are absolutely dynamic in some areas. Like, some of the, when I look at what Selena does with her job and how she goes about it, I'm just like, wow, she's really good. And I would not be able to do that. And so how they just go about it in a different way. And like what you were saying before, how women step into their masculinity when they're in like top roles and stuff like that. I actually don't agree with that. I think they're just in a heightened state of femininity, like, because they go about it differently than a man does, especially in the corporate world. They're not, I wouldn't say they're as aggressive as a male, but they do it in a way that it's feminine, but they still get the results.
Well, are we looking at it wrong? Because this is a workplace. Do you know what I mean? And there's an old saying, this isn't personal, it's business. Because emotions are taken out of a lot of the decisions we make when we're trying to get results. Does that make sense? So, like, masculinity and femininity for me should be in relationships. So it should be about the people that you care about. You know what I mean? So, like, looking at running a business, a country, leading this and that, like, the best leader is the person who makes the best decisions long term. Yeah. So, but masculine and feminine definitely is something that happens in the home, you know. But it also makes me think, like, and it comes back to that respect thing again. Would your partner be so offended if her boss told her to do something or corrected it or something, compared to you saying, "Oh, babe, can you not do that?" Or, do you know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, that's a lot more emotional baggage that comes up because of that. So, and, you know, I think maybe we see that as a sign of disrespect. Or you respect your boss more than you respect me too. So maybe we need to start looking at separating that sort of situation where work is work, and depending on your skill sets and depending on your work ethics and depending on your mindset when you're at work, you know, that's going to determine your success. But home is home. Yeah. And if we're going to want this to work, this is the person I am. And that's the thing that gives me the absolute shits in relationships, is when people start and be someone, pretend to be someone, and then 3 months later they're a totally different person. You know, that's like, it's false advertising. It's not the way it should be. And I think that's what you were saying, is that most of the time the female is in the feminine when you first get together, and the male is in the masculine. And then what happens is that sort of starts to intertwine, and you go, "Oh yeah, I'll change because of this, or I'll do this because, you know, she's really hot," or et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Or I love her, so I bet I've got to change now. Like, I think that's, maybe we need to separate that, and maybe we just need to be a little bit more, this is who I am and I'm not going to change type thing. So.
Do you think overall that the more and more we talk about this whole thing, and the more and more we're trying to dissect and discover and all this kind of stuff, do you think overall, as a nutshell, we, and I say we, I mean as the human race, yeah, everybody together, do you think we're just confusing what masculinity is with misogyny? Because everything that has an attack, and you look at this whole series we're doing, the war on masculinity, it's as if masculinity itself is the thing that's been dragged through mud, but the perpetrator is misogyny. Because everything that we're talking about, I'm just going back through all these topics that we've done. It just seems to be, it's that very fine, it's the few, but the few that are operating in a certain way that has seemed to drag everything else through the mud.
Yep.
Because the more and more we talk about this, the more and more I go, it's been misunderstood. Masculinity in itself, if embraced, is the most amazing, empowering, powerful for both men and women. Our women would get the best out of us if they allow us to be masculine, and in turn, they will get the best for them if they allow that. But it's as if what they're trying to block is misogyny. But I don't think it's their fault. I don't think it's women's fault that they're trying to block that, because no one likes misogyny. Men don't like it either. There are men out there that have that power trip that try and be just flogs, but at the end of the day, majority of men, we can all say it, we don't like it. So I wonder if this whole war isn't against masculinity, it's a misunderstanding of masculinity. Sadly, it's just been dragged through the mud.
Well, I think I think that some people take in some of those accounts thinking that it is masculinity because they hear it from some people and all the rest of it. Like the people, the things that get exposed out there are the things that shock people, and this is why this is why we do this podcast, is because we're trying to work out, okay, what is masculinity and what is misogyny? What is the right thing to do and what isn't the right thing to do? And I don't think there's enough men out there having the conversation to go, no, mate, what you're doing is pretty shit. Or, no, mate, what you're doing is actually spot on and you should feel right about, standing your grounds or setting boundaries, but there is a lot of that where, we had that young, what was it, the guy from the young kid the other day on with Toby. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Toby.
Thanks, Tobes. We had Toby on, and that's exactly what he was saying. He was like, there's not many places out there where people are going, this is the example, this is who you should be like, this is what you should do, So they go looking for who the type of person they are. And unfortunately, the ones with the biggest mouths are actually the ones that can sometimes get into that mindset and all the rest of it. And then people are confused. Like, until we started talking, until we started doing development and all the rest of it, you understanding that, masculinity is about being a leader, about providing for your family, about protecting your family, like 3 simple principles, you know what I mean? But when I was growing up, I never heard anyone say anything about that,
That was never talked about.
No. So I think that it's the confusion. And if you can actually get the message out that this is what you should be doing as a man, this is what you should be doing to become a better father, husband, whatever's important to you, this is why team sports are so important, isn't it? Because if you do the wrong thing in the team,
women's team sports.
one of your teammates will pull you up. You know what I mean? And you've got a coach that you respect or teammates that you respect. And if you lose the respect of the team, then that's one of the worst things ever. And we learn how to, take people as who they are because let's say they're going through a tough time and they're not performing as best they can, or they're going through a tough time and they go out and get on the terps and make silly decisions and all the rest of it. But he's still your teammate. So, you're trying to support him. You're not beating him down and stuff. So that's probably where, a lot of these kids should learn that side of things. But they're all on the games. And they're all talking to each other. And then they're on TikTok and listening to people say one snippet of a thing. Like we had some wanker commenting on a reel. And
I think he was actually trying to proposition us.
Yeah, and the podcast wasn't even released yet, and he acted like he already knew everything they were talking about. But isn't that just the stupid shit that we have to deal with now, where people have an opinion about something, think that they're better than everyone else when people are trying to do the right thing, without actually even knowing what it is.
Yeah. That is cool to be offended, though, isn't it? That's what it is.
When just I guess for you guys out there listening, to give a bit of clarity on what Jamie's talking about, we released in leading up to releasing this series, we'd put a couple of posts out there on social media, and we had one guy not very happy about it without even listening to the podcast, without even watching anything.
It wasn't even released yet.
Well, it hadn't even been released, but had a very, very strong opinion. And what was interesting is that when I was reading his comment, and then I threw a comment back, and then he came back again. In my head, I'm thinking, if you only listened to this series coming out, you would see how much this benefits guys like you, but you're instantly blocking it with its own.
Look, I'm just glad that bloke's wife let him use his phone for a little bit to do a message. It's good. He's getting some freedom.
Here's a thought, right? Sticking with this whole misconception of masculinity being oppressive towards women. In the current state of where the world sits, keeping that belief in mind, let's just stay with the belief that women across the world are thinking that when men are masculine, they're oppressed by it. That being the case, that belief system in place still, do you think then it's as men, are we to blame for that? Do you think we need to take responsibility to then try to fix that? Or do we go, well, it's not our fault that you feel that way. That's just how you feel.
Look, collectively as men, it has to all fall on us. Like if you go back to, let's go back in time a little bit, and we look at there was a time where women weren't allowed to vote, they weren't allowed to work, there was a lot of things they couldn't do, right? So we had the control of all of that. Now, we would have released that control slowly, and it has to be us. We've rolled that out somehow. So at some point, it must have been us that cocked it up, right? For people to feel like this.
So you're saying it's the blame is on men, or do you think the responsibility to fix it is on men?
Oh, both. Both. If it's gotten out of control, it has to be us. Okay?
And we fix it how?
Well, one of the things I think we should do is start holding each other accountable, like we used to. You know, growing up, who else had aunties and uncles that weren't related to us? They were just the people that lived next door or up the street that were friends. They were auntie and uncles because they would speak into your life.
They were involved in your life, yeah.
They would. They'd pull you up. You know, men would pull other men up. You don't behave like that, mate. Fix yourself. We don't do that. We're all too afraid of offending each other.
I think that, yeah, we have to take, I think everyone has to take responsibility. Like, honestly, let's work out, you know, we don't even have to work it out. It's fair enough to say that it's natural for people to have families and to love their families. So let's work out the best way for those families to be happy, you know? And I think that model of, you know, the masculine and feminine having half of half, or you know what I mean, and the utopia and all the rest of it, I think that's debunked. And I think that we just need to, and I think moving forward, the way to do it is actually for us to talk about this stuff, find people who actually think the same way you think, believe the same things you do, have the same values you have, and then you start actually hanging out with those people and you be the example. Because you can't control anyone, but what you can do is influence people. You can have people look at your family and the way that you treat each other and the way that you talk to each other and the way that, you know, everyone respects each other in the family and all the rest of it, and go, I want a family like that. Then they'll go gravitate towards that. How do you guys do that? You have those conversations, you know, in those relationships. Or do you think that such and such would talk to each other this way? But it's true, isn't it? Like, we've all got to have, I guess, standards or rules on how we treat each other and what actually happens. And we both have to be aligned with that sort of side of things, because if we think that everything's going to be perfect, it's not. And if we don't actually have a set of standards on how we treat each other or what's okay and what's not okay, well then, you know, that's how society works. You know, if there wasn't any laws in society, there wouldn't be society. So, and I think it's pretty similar in families, where you're like, well, let's actually decide how we want to treat each other and what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, all those types of things, and get together with people that believe the same sort of thing. And then be the example. There's no quick fix to this, but there is progressing towards a better thing. And that's my number one motivator, is to actually give my son the opportunity to actually have a better life, to have a better relationship, to actually have a little bit more knowledge for the future.
I think you're spot on, mate. I think one thing you said there too is that this is not a quick fix. I don't think by any means this is a quick fix. I think it's a slow implementation of smaller things that start with us as men. Because if women are overall, look, and this is the thing too, which I was trying to get at when I was saying to you, Mike, those three questions. Like, if women are feeling oppressed, I don't think it's not up to us to. We can't was it? If you're feeling a certain way, I think that's you feeling that, like that's your choice to feel that certain way. But I think responsibility needs to fall somewhere. And I go, okay, well, let us as men, if we carry the trait of leadership as men to lead, to go, right, I can't help the way that you feel, but if that is how you feel, let me come back 1 or 2 steps and try and work out why. And I think what we're discovering is that I think partly to blame it is on us, but I think it's not a quick fix either. And I think the initial place it starts is within you as an individual, as a man, to then let it overflow within you as a home, and then from the home, and then it can trickle out to the world. But I think it's spot on. So if we were to start, let's get to a point where we wrap this up then. So if we were to start implementing how, other than it practically speaking, working on ourselves, how else could we start this ball in motion?
So go home to your wife.
Need to edit that big gap out just that and bring it.
Yeah. Go home to your wife and suggest a performance review.
Introduce KPIs, you reckon?
Yep. No, but then go home and say it, and then ask her, give me a performance review.
What do you break that down a bit more?
What am I not doing? Is there something that, if it's about a feeling, tell me, what am I not doing? What am I doing differently? What am I doing wrong? Ask her. If we're men, we've got broad shoulders, we can take it.
It's an interesting approach.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to listen. There you go, right.
Give it a go, guys, and write in the comments on how you went with Mikey's suggestion.
Yeah.
Go and do what Mikey said, and I want to hear from you and how it went.
Stop calling her woman.
Start, but don't say
Have you
woman
heard me
when
do
you
that
walk
to
in.
Pip?
No.
Favourite thing in the world when we're out in the shops. Woman!
Everyone looks at you.
Oh, everyone with coloured hair looks at me funny. I don't know why.
Well, boys, let's wrap up there. Any final thoughts, any final words?
No, I think what you said is work on yourself first, and then it can spill over into your family and then the community. I think that was great what you said, and lead by example with that, and just remember, the more that you change yourself for someone else, the less you're always going to feel right within yourself, and you're always going to reset back to that. So if you're changing to make someone else happy, then that's going to be a challenge in the long term. And what you need to do is both decide where you want to go and what you want to do, and then work together to be able to achieve those things.
Lads, final thoughts, anything?
Oh, just be a good man. That's all women want.
Yeah. Look, I think as men, we've got a responsibility to leave this world a better place than we found it. And I think part of that is showing our young men what it is to be a man, a real man. And I think it's also showing the women in our life what it is that a real man is. So,
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Yep. I was just thinking before, I think if we would wrap this up, I think if anything, if women are feeling oppressed, I think it's because there's a misunderstanding on the difference between masculinity and misogyny. I think the overpowering dictatorship ego that does bring that sense of control does exist, it sadly exists, but it's very, very minor. But I think when men operate in their full masculine, it allows women to be empowered. So if anything, if oppression exists, it's the lack of masculinity. And the only way masculinity can pop up, rise to the top, I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's you as a man taking responsibility and working on yourself, but I think there always also needs to be that bit of leeway from our women in our wife to allow us to work in our masculine. It empowers us, in order, in return, empowers women. So if oppression exists and women are wanting empowerment, allow men to be masculine. I think you will find, as a woman, you will be empowered more than you can believe if you allow us to be masculine. So Well, look, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this latest episode of the Men's Collective podcast. Make sure you get along to your AJ's meet up this week. Make sure you jump on the website, grab some merch if you want to. And look, give us a review, leave us a like and a comment. We like the comments because it entertains us. We talk about you. But look, thanks for joining us. Get out there and look, the world needs better men. We say it every week. Get out there and be a better man. Lads, thanks once again.
See you,
Thanks,
lads.
guys.
Cheers.